Okay, all right. Well, good morning and welcome back to school. Happy spring quarter. Happy, I guess, week one Monday, and welcome. And I appreciate everyone's flexibility to meet online this week. Yeah, unfortunately, I got really sick last quarter during finals week, and it was like the most sick I've ever been in my life. And yeah, I ended up in the hospital for a few days. Um, but I'm happy to say I'm doing okay. Still kind of recovering. My um my lungs are still kind of my lung capacity isn't what it used to be, so I get winded easily. But I'm doing better. So yeah, um hopefully things will things will improve, and yeah, I hope to be back in person Tuesday. Some of you took 102A with me, and I know I'm just like so behind on grading, and the grades are due tonight, and um, so anyway, I got all of that to work on. Um, yeah, oh, thank you for the well wishes in the chat. But yeah. Okay, anyway, this class is 102B, and yeah, let's dive into it. So, yeah, let's see. Uh what is this like? My name is Miles Chen. Yeah, this is that's me. Yeah, you can call me Miles, you can call me Professor Chen, Dr. Chen, whatever you're comfortable with. But yes, I will be your teacher, and I love teaching this class. So I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, let's do this. Okay, and I put this email. I kind of hate that I have to put this email with, or not email, this message on every every class I teach, but it's the truth. I'm just bad at email, and it's not that I'm trying to ignore you or anything like that. It's just I don't know what, for whatever reason I'm slow to respond. So um, I've got office hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. And so you can that will probably be the best way to get a hold of me, especially if you need an extension or any kind of accommodation or anything like that. Um, Usually I try to be reasonable and hear you out. So that's my preferred method of contact. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer. I have to get Campus Wire set up, but when I once I get that going, you can ask that, and usually your classmates are really good at responding and helping one another out. And then I'll also make sure the TA is included on that to respond. Okay, this is the tentative grade breakdown. Um, in this class, I plan on having two midterm exams, just because the midterms, we take them during class time, and you have 50 minutes, and so I'm going to make each of them. I mean, I feel like we cover a lot of content, and so to try to fill up an entire I don't know, put it feels like a lot to put into just one midterm exam. So I'm gonna break it up into two, slightly lower weighted, around 15% each, and then a final exam, which will be a little bit longer. And then yeah, a lot of homework, a lot of coding, and hopefully, well, my hope is that the coding and the homework exercises will really kind of solidify the concepts and ideas that we cover in class. Okay. I go off a straight scale. I make it kind of my goal to write exams that and homework assignments that you can do well on. So okay. I no, you will not drop one of the midterms. There will be two midterm exams, and they will both count. So yeah, I'm not going to be dropping one of those. But yeah, and regarding kind of attendance and whatnot, so I don't take traditional attendance, but you are required to watch the lectures. and it works, I think, moderately well enough, the lecture view quizzes. So each lecture, let me see. Do I think there's this one is posted. Um, and so let's see. This first quiz, um, let's see. The first answer is the letter D. D as in dog is your first view quiz answer. And yeah, this is how we'll do quote unquote attendance in that just to kind of make sure you are watching the lectures. During the lecture, I'll just say like, question one, the answer is this. Question two, the answer is something else. And so I'll give you question answers to questions two and three later in today's lecture. And then that way, if you miss class or whatever, just watch the video. The video should get posted later in the day, and then just watch the video and you can respond to those questions as well. Okay. Yeah. Don't come to class if you're sick. There's no penalty for, missing class, of course. When we are in person, I always enjoy seeing you in person. Um, but yeah, you can keep up with the content by watching videos. Okay. And then the view quizzes close before the next lecture. So just make sure you complete them on time, and then also just make sure you click the proper answer. There's it it feels silly to lose points because you just weren't careful with clicking the answer. So just take care with when selecting your answers. Okay, all right, let's talk about this class, just a overview of what this class is. Um, and yeah, so this is 102B, computation and optimization for statistics, something like that. And I say it kind of fits in the I guess the Venn diagram of data science. And so, data science uh, arguably consists of these three kind of major components. One is your ability to code and interact with data on the computer. And then you combine that with math and stats knowledge, um, kind of your theoretic understanding. And then, of course, data always exists in the context of some kind of domain, whether it be, medical data or marketing data or, scientific something. And you need to be kind of an expert in that particular domain. Now, as far as the data science, statistics and data theory majors, we can only give you the first two. We cannot give you domain expertise, as that is going to differ from uh, one differ very greatly from one subject to another. Okay. This is Drew Conway's original kind of Venn diagram. He calls the coding skills hacking skills, but really it's your ability to interact with data on the computer, either through code or I guess any of the other kind of tools that we have. And then, yeah, the math stats knowledge, this is kind of your 100 series. You take that with Professor Christo or Montufar, whoever it might be that gives you kind of that theoretical foundation, and you learn all of your mathematical statistics. But, a lot of these things also rely on, these theoretic assumptions, which may or may not always apply. But anyway, when you combine that and the coding ability and your math stats knowledge, we might call that machine learning. And then when you apply that to a particular subject matter and you have expertise and knowledge in that, we can say you can, truly do some data science. Okay. If you're not going to do a ton of, computation, we might call this overlap, traditional research. And then this part over here without the math stats knowledge, that's the quote danger zone where you might just be applying different algorithms, not really knowing what the meaning and whatever it is. Okay. So yeah, I said this course, Stats 102B, presents material kind of from the overlap of coding skills and math and stats knowledge. The Venn diagram calls that area of machine learning, and indeed, we will cover a lot of important machine learning algorithms. Um, this course, a prerequisite is that you took 102A, and I presume everybody is kind of comfortable with writing code. Um, if you took 102A with me, I said 102A kind of represents the transition between learning to code and then coding to learn. So, Stats 20, you are learning how to code. And then by the time you're in 102B, we expect you to be comfortable with coding, and you're going to be coding things to kind of be learning either about the algorithms or about your data. And 102A kind of represents that transition here. So here I'm assuming everyone's kind of comfortable with writing code. I'm not going to be spending a ton of time teaching you how to code, but rather presenting ideas, and a lot of these ideas will be expressed via code. Okay. Um, and yeah, this course aims to prepare you for data science work by teaching you how certain machine learning algorithms work. There's a lot of different algorithms out there as far as how do we extract information and knowledge from the data. And so we'll kind of get into the nitty-gritty of those, how those things work. Okay. Now, all of the kind of algorithms and methods that I cover in this class, um, there's probably already a high quality implementation of it that exists in some kind of package. So, for example, one of the things we'll learn is the Bayes classifier. All right, there or and the naive Bayes classifier, and maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't. There are packages and functions that exist in R and Python and whatnot that implement these things, and you just kind of say, hey, here's the data, and I want you to run this classifier um, on it. Okay. But in this class, in the homework assignments, I'm going to force you to kind of manually code um, functions and whatnot to implement the algorithms yourself. And the hope is that by forcing you to do it yourself, okay, coding these algorithms yourself by hand, you will gain a deeper understanding of how the thing is working. Okay. Now, obviously, in real life, like once you graduate here and you go out into the workforce and you have to do these things, use the professional um, already implemented thing. Okay, it's going to be much higher quality and things like that. But it's kind of like I don't know, in in like middle school, perhaps like you made a battery with a potato and some metals and things like that. And you learn a little bit about like how you can create a voltage difference chemically so that you can, produce the flow of electrons and electricity, and that's kind of neat, right? And you learn something about that. But obviously, you're not going to use that, potato-based battery in real life. You're just going to buy a, you know, Duracell battery out from the store. Um, but by doing it yourself, you learn a little bit of something. And so that's kind of the idea of this course is that you're going to be doing a lot of these things by hand yourself, and you're going to get like these kind of rudimentary versions of these programs. And the hope is that by doing that yourself, you'll learn a lot. Okay. So these are some of the big ideas that we'll cover. Um, so some key ideas in all of machine learning is the idea of a loss function. Okay, these are things that you are trying to, you set forth a goal. Okay, and the goal is to minimize your loss or minimize your cost, and that is how we say, hey, we are making progress towards our goal, is because we have a function to define what our goal is. All right, and then and going along with that, we have likelihood functions, and then to check if our predictions are performing well. We have cross-validation, other things like regularization as well. And then as far as some of the different algorithms and models from machine learning that we'll cover, we'll start off with linear regression. I know everybody's already familiar with linear regression, but we're going to take a machine learning perspective and a approach to it, kind of defining uh, the idea of, what if we um, frame this as an optimization problem, and how do we, avoid, certain problems rather than relying on our traditional, these are the theoretic underpinnings of the, you know, central limit theorem and uh, constant variance of your observations and things like that. So anyway, we'll take a machine learning approach for linear regression, and then once we get a handle of that, we'll take a look at some of these other methods. We'll touch on neural networks, just a very kind of brief introduction there. We'll look at some maximum likelihood estimation models, classification models, clustering, the EM expectation maximization algorithm, and PCA principal components analysis. Okay. This class overlaps quite a bit with 101C, which I also teach. I think I'm teaching it this summer. But anyway, 101C is titled Statistical Models and Data Mining. And that one's a bit more of a practical approach, and looking at applications. You cover probably some even more machine learning algorithms, things like random forest and linear discriminant analysis and support vector machines and things like that. And this class covers the kind of underlying algorithms so that you gain an understanding of the algorithms themselves, whereas I would say 101C focuses more on the implementation, like using those professional and well-tested uh, packages and solutions, and saying like, okay, when you want to fit a random forest model to your data, this is what you do, and this is what you look for to see um, how it's working. Versus this one is focused a little bit more on the algorithms themselves. Okay. Um, I like to kind of put this in the big picture of statistics and data science overall. Okay. So, you took a introduction to stats course, either, maybe in high school, AP statistics, maybe you took it here at UCLA as stats 10 or stats 15, and those provide some foundations to statistical thinking. Um, Stats 20 is kind of your programming introduction, and 102A expands on that. And then, introduced a little bit of computational methods. The 100 series focuses, on all of the kind of mathematical theory behind that. And then we have the 101 series, okay? And I would say 101A and 101B are kind of more of your traditional classical statistical methods. Those come from a time where data was expensive to gather, and so you wanted to maximize the amount of information and the kinds of conclusions you could get from a limited amount of data. And then meanwhile, this course and Stats 101C come, cover a lot of kind of methods where data is abundant. Okay, you have these very large data sets, and your ability to make predictions becomes more important, and the interpretations and the mathematical assumptions and whatnot become a little bit less important. Okay. And then 102C covers some Monte Carlo methods and Bayesian models that allow us to kind of accommodate prior beliefs and tweak our models here. Um, all right. Let me talk a little bit about academic integrity. And um, this is so let's talk about plagiarism. All right. So the truth is that there's a lot of high quality code out there that's going to do exactly what you need. And if you search hard enough, you could probably find solutions. There's going to be some ready to install packages. You can probably find answers on Stack Exchange and GitHub. Not to mention ChatGPT and GitHub Copilot and all of these AI tools that exist now that are highly impressive, where you can probably just copy and paste my homework prompt, my questions, and it will spit out a solution. Okay. Um, and it'll probably work. Maybe it requires a little bit of tweaking, but it'll probably work. Okay. And and to be honest, if the goal is just to get a task done, okay, just to get a job done, yeah, use those readily available packages out there, okay? And go ahead and ask ChatGPT for help. You know, when you're working and if you're not using ChatGPT, you're probably putting yourself a little bit at a disadvantage when you're out in the workforce, okay? And you need to get work done, okay? Or even if you're like working on some kind of project yourself, where you want to explore things, like this is. I went to a conference. I try to attend conferences to just kind of keep up on, you know, the state of data science and R and Python and and AI and generative models and ChatGPT and things like that. These things are here and they're here to stay. There's no avoiding it. You know, as educators and whatnot, it presents a challenge, okay, to try to um, think of ways to properly evaluate learning and things like that. Just because it, you know, it's very easy to just kind of get good high quality answers without putting in any kind of effort. So it presents a challenge as educators. But the fact of the matter is you know these tools are here to stay. And if when you're working, if you're not using it, you're probably a little bit at a disadvantage. Everybody is kind of thinking of ways to, I guess, enhance their skills and their abilities and their output by leveraging these tools. Okay. Um, but that is not the goal of this class. Okay. The goal of this class is not for you to implement I don't know, the EM algorithm uh, in code yourself. Okay. The EM algorithm, there's already a package that does it. Okay. The reason why I have you write the EM algorithm by hand in your homework is so that you learn. Okay. The goal of this class and all the homework assignments is your learning. Okay. Is you learn how to write the code, you learn how to implement these ideas yourself. Okay. And and using a tool, copying someone else's code or whatever is going to kind of rob you of that learning opportunity, right? Um, the analogy that I like to use is comparing it to going to the gym. Okay. The goal of going to the gym and lifting weights, the goal isn't that we get weights lifted up off the ground. Okay. The goal is that you gain strength. And by you lifting the weights yourself and putting you through that kind of physical um, work, your muscles in your body will get stronger. Okay. And and there's kind of this concept of no pain, no gain, right? If you if your training and your exercise doesn't push you, you can't expect to get stronger or uh, you know, more endurance or whatever, right? If you only do things that are easy, um, you know, you're not gonna grow. And the thing is the same is for coding and learning. If you only stick to what's comfortable, it's you're not going to get you're not going to you know expand your brain, right? So, you know, your brain is similar in that like if your brain doesn't struggle, okay, then it has no reason to kind of create additional neuron connections. So, you know, when you struggle in your homework and you're thinking about that and it's hard, you know, when you go to sleep at night, your brain's going to say, "Man, that was tough. Can we make this a little bit better?" And it might try to form new neuron connections. And when it does, you'll become a better coder. You'll be able to kind of implement these ideas better, right? So plagiarizing code, asking the AI to do the assignment for you is like going to the gym, but then having someone else lift the weights for you. Okay. And then, if the goal is we want the weights lifted up off the ground, sure, that's fine. Okay. Um, I recently moved and and the goal wasn't that I get stronger, but we just wanted the furniture moved. And so we hired movers. Okay. We paid someone and they sent people and they moved the furniture for us. And that was great. Okay. If the goal is you just need things picked up and lifted and moved, yeah, sure. Go ahead, hire somebody to do that or ask someone to lift the weights for you. But if the goal is you want to get stronger, then you gotta lift the weights yourself, okay? And similarly, if you want to learn more in your coding, you got to write the code yourself, okay? So so anyway, that's my hope. Please don't ask the AI to do your homework for you. Don't copy someone else's code. The goal is your learning, and the struggle is a good thing. It means your brain has to put forward the effort to get stronger. Okay. All right. So my expectations, yeah, the homework is intended to be challenging, but not completely out of reach. So, with yeah, my hope is that yeah, you'll work hard. You're not going to seek out solutions, and if you can't complete everything on your own by the deadline, that's okay. Turn in what you have, and if you didn't complete it to 100%, you're not going to get 100% on the homework. But this is not not a failure, but rather an indication of areas for growth. Okay. Um, I'm gonna post a collaboration policy and whatnot, and I'm gonna ask you guys to sign that. And basically, it just says you're gonna do your work yourself, basically. Okay. Can you talk to classmates? Yes, you can talk to classmates, but please don't show each other code directly. There's a lot of code that's going to be presented, and so you can ask about code and things like that on Campus Wire. It's just when it comes to the homework itself, the homework problems yourself, I want to make sure you guys do that um, on your own. Okay, I'm like getting winded already just from talking. Okay, let me give you your second view quiz answer, which is the letter C, C as in cat. Today, the second view quiz answer is C, C as in cat. Okay, I always like to, during our first class, I always like to give this little spiel on grades and life. And if you've taken another class with me before, you've already heard this. But if this is your first class with me, then this will be I will present this to you. And even if you've already heard it, I think it's still worth reminding you about this. And I think this also just gives you a little bit of perspective on me and where I come from. So anyway, let me just talk a little bit about grades in life, right? Okay, so this is I think the most important thing I can tell you in any of my classes is that your grades do not define you. Your professional and your academic achievements, your achievement does not define you, right? You are here at UCLA. UCLA is an elite school. It is a top tier school. It is they just sent out admissions decisions to a bunch of future freshmen and things like that. And a lot of people were rejected. There were so many applicants. There's only so much space, and UCLA is juggling this thing of how many students do they admit, how many students get enrolled. Everyone's grateful to be admitted, but then once you're in, it's It's a big campus and lots of students. And so anyway, but you are here. You got into UCLA, okay? And that's because you had good grades. You had good grades in high school or good grades at community college or wherever you are. While you're in school, a ton of your energy is poured into your classes. And so grades feel really important, okay? But grades do not define you, right? Of course, it feels good to get good grades. Um, and grades do play a role in graduate school admissions, and some of you are thinking about graduate school, but they're still not the most important thing in life. And you know, once you're working and things like that, nobody's going to care about your GPA. Okay, no one's going to care about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a big deal right now. Okay. Um, and yeah, and I get it. I was a student. I remember. I still. Uh, I was a student so many years ago now, but yeah, I know what it feels like to get good grades, and I also know what it feels like to get bad grades and to fail classes and things like that. So I get it. But yeah, having been removed from that and having been working, your grades do not define you, and you know that you are so much more as a person than just your academic or professional achievements. Okay. I also like to talk a little bit about work-life balance, um, just because this is going to be something that you might struggle with for the rest of your life. Okay. There's always going to be things demanding your time and energy. And I like to just put things into three very broad categories. There is work, there's relationships, and there's self. All right. Work is going to be things like your actual job once you're working, or maybe some of you have internships in the summer. Right now, you are students, and so school and academics fall under work. Sometimes you have clubs and other kind of um, other obligations and things like that, and I would put that all under work. Okay. Relationships, things like relationships with your family, relationships with your friends. You might have a romantic relationship. You might be part of clubs where there's different kind of other social obligations, being part of a community or things like that. And that's important. You need to, those things are going to demand your time and energy as well. And then taking care of yourself. Okay. You have to take care of your physical health. That's going to be things like eating well and sleeping and getting exercise, taking care of your mental health. So, again, sleeping, but also having fun, having time to do things that you enjoy, like playing and entertainment, spiritual health, if you're spiritual or religious. And the bottom line is all of us, we only have 24 hours in a day. And it's not possible to give 100% to every single one of these categories. Sure, there might be a day where you're going to say, this is a day I'm going to take care of myself, and you spend the entire day for yourself. But you can't do that every single day because, let's face it, we all have to work and earn money, and we, we probably like to enjoy relationships and having friends and things. And so you need to, um, you need to split your time accordingly. Okay. And this is what I believe is the key to achieving a satisfying work-life balance, okay? Is that you, as a person, get to choose what is important to you, and then you get to devote your time and energy accordingly, okay? In general, the more time and energy you put into one of these categories, the more you're going to get out of that particular category. And satisfaction regarding your work-life balance, I believe, can be found by accepting just the natural consequences of what happens when you deprioritize or you put less time and energy into one of these categories. If you're going to say, I'm going to put less time and energy into this category, and I understand that this aspect of my life will not flourish as much as the other things, I think you can find a good work-life balance. Okay, that's just the natural kind of way things go. This is a silly, a little bit of a silly example, but I think it happens. Um, um, in I've seen it happen enough times, I guess. So let's say you're part of a group of friends, okay? And then one day you become involved in a romantic relationship. You have a romantic partner. And then so now a lot of your time and energy is invested in your romantic relationship. Okay. You're spending a lot of kind of time with your romantic partner, and that aspect is flourishing. Okay. Um, and you're developing a strong relationship with your romantic partner, and that's great. Okay, but now you're spending a lot less time with your original group of friends, and the natural thing that's going to happen is you're not going to be as close as you used to be to your original group of friends, and it might come to a point where one day your friends go out and they don't invite you, um, and and that initially can feel hostile, but I don't think it's like they're trying to get revenge or anything. I don't think there's necessarily any kind of malicious intent, but it's just that you're not as close as you used to be because you don't spend as much time with them as you used to. And and if you can say, you know what, I'm okay with the change in this dynamic because now I have this romantic relationship and I'm spending a lot of time and this is fulfilling. And you know what? The natural thing that happens is I'm not as close as I used to be to my original group of friends. And I think that's okay, right? Um, so you get to and you have to make choices about what is going to be important to you and how you're going to invest your time accordingly. And yeah, I'm in my 40s now, and the truth is as far as relationship time goes, I have my family, I have my spouse and my children, and I spend a lot of kind of time there. I'm invested in, I guess, my church community, and I just don't have as much time as I used to go to movies with friends or, go to sporting events or anything like that. And so, I still have friends and I still see them on, some somewhat regular basis, but I'm not as close as I used to be to these friends. And that's okay. There's no bad blood. There's nothing wrong, but yeah, I don't know all of the fine details of what's happening. Sometimes I'll talk on the phone with some of my friends who now live in other states and things like that. But that's okay. I think we're all kind of happy with where we are in life. Um, and it is good to see each other when we do get together. But yeah, that's just how life changes and things go, and I feel I'm happy with kind of the balance I have, right? Other things, as far as work-life balance goes, is how much time do you balance between working either at a company or at school versus um, other things in life. And so, when you're working, there might be you have a choice. You could spend all of your free time and energy doing company related things, or you could say, you know what, I want to have a life outside of work and do that. And from the company's perspective, who would they promote? Would they promote the person that did everything that was asked of them and then continued to stay at work and do even more? Or would they rather promote the person who did everything and then immediately leaves? Okay. Um, and probably from the company's perspective, they're going to promote the person who continued to stay at work and didn't have a ton of time, didn't spend a ton of time with their, you know, family, friends, or romantic partner, things like that. And depending on where you are and what's important to you, you might choose to be the person who stays at work and does a lot there, or you might choose to be the person who um, takes time for friends and uh, family and romantic partners. You choose what is important to you and what you want to do, right? Sometimes climbing that corporate ladder and moving to the next stage higher up or in the chain, or maybe you're working at a startup and it's really exciting and there's a lot of kind of new things, and that's going to demand a lot of your time, okay? And that means certain other aspects of your life will not flourish as much, okay? And that's okay, all right? Other times, maybe you're at a stage in life where um, your romantic relationship is advancing to the next level or things like that, or sometimes you end up starting a family, okay? Perhaps planned or unplanned, things like that, things that and that's going to demand a lot of your time, and you're not going to have as much time to uh, go to work. And that's okay also. Um, just pick what's important to you and be satisfied with just the natural consequences of what happens. Okay, so that's work-life balance. Taking care of yourself is really important. Make sure you get good physical sleep, good take care of your mental health. And this is not just some platitude that I'm saying. Um, I want you to be comfortable with the idea of not doing your homework in order to take care of your mental health. Okay. And that sounds kind of crazy. But if it comes to a point where, you need the day of rest, I want you to say, yeah, you know what? Today is important for me to rest, and I'm not going to do my homework. And the natural consequence of that is you're going to lose points on your homework, right? If you don't finish your homework, you're gonna you're not going to get 100% on that. But I want you to be okay with that. All right. I want you to be okay with that. And, if there's some reason you need to ask for an extension for the homework or things like that, that's fine. Come to office hours. I'm happy to kind of grant you those things. Um, but yeah, I hope you can say, you know what? Today it's more important for me to be a good friend to somebody who's experiencing a hard time in their life, and I want to be there for them, and that means I'm not going to be able to study as much or something like that. Okay. So that could happen. Okay. um all right. Oh, that's what this says, right? When I tell you that your physical and mental health is important, I'm encouraging you to choose to invest your time into things like exercise, sleep, and relaxation that will boost your physical and mental health. Sometimes that means choosing not to complete your homework to 100%, and the natural consequence of that is a homework grade that is less than 100%. Um, okay, and then the last slide here is just I want you to be mindful of what I call fruitless entertainment, right? I am all for having fun, doing things you enjoy, entertainment. That is important. That is important to your life, so that you are happy and enjoy doing things. Okay. I like hanging out with friends, and I like watching TV and movies and things like that. Um, but all of these things should have the goal of basically um, being a nice break from work. It should give you kind of mental energy and whatnot. So when it does come back to go back, does come time to go back to work, that you'll be in a good mood for those things. Okay. But some activities, and I hate to say this, but sometimes even hanging out with certain people can have the opposite effect and end up kind of being draining, right? And other things like certain video games, certain apps, certain social media sites, and things like that, they're just designed to be addictive. They're just designed to kind of keep you, scrolling forever so that they can kind of throw more ads in your face and get money that way. And they're all like designed to just give your brain a slight dopamine hit, so that you just kind of go and play another round, or you scroll to the next video or whatever, right? Um, but then at the end of hours of doing this activity, you don't feel any better. Okay, it doesn't give you joy in life. It doesn't um make you feel better about like how wonderful the world is and things like that. And I just want you to be I guess mindful of that. All right. Even things like reading the news, okay? Like, yes, it is important to be informed and know what's happening in the world. But I think sometimes reading the news can be almost a form of like a little bit of escape and things like that, where you just kind of read thing after thing after thing and what people are commenting and whatnot. And at the end, you just kind of feel like, oh man, this world sucks. Which there, granted, there are, lots of problems in the world that need fixing and things like that. But just I don't know, having an attitude of like everything sucks. I don't know if that's super productive either. So, be mindful, be selective about the kind of activities and things you do and where you spend your time. Because the goal is, your growth as a human, that you find joy in life and you can bring joy to other people. And so anyway, that's just my little soapbox that I want to kind of share, and thanks for listening to that. I think I need to give you one more view quiz answer today, which is the letter E. E as in elephant. And we'll wrap it up here. I guess on Wednesday we'll start getting into the actual kind of content for the course. I look forward to a great quarter. I know I'm like behind on posting things like a syllabus, and I'll get your first homework assignment up, I guess in the next couple of days and things like that. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you. Um, I guess in person next week. But yeah, we'll see you back online on Wednesday. All right, thanks everyone. Have a great rest of your day.